Have you recently started questioning yourself in something you used to feel confident doing? Not because something catastrophic happened, just something feels off. You hesitate more. You second guess decisions. You don't trust your instincts the way you used to. If that's happening, I want you to slow down for a second, because this might not mean what you think it means. In fact, I learned this lesson somewhere I didn't expect. You see those 2 golf trophies behind me? I didn't win those by accident, but before I won them, there was a stretch of time where I would stand over the ball, running through a mental checklist before I even swung. Grip, stance, posture, elbows, shoulders, alignment, chin, eyes, even wind and temperature. Well, it felt disciplined, but the longer I stood there thinking, the harder it became to swing. And eventually, doubt showed up before I even moved. That's paralysis through analysis in the real world. And self-doubt lives there, not after the shot, before it. The same thing happens to content creators. We outline, we tweak, we rework, we compare. You check performance in your head before even recording. You tell yourself you're being strategic, but underneath it, something else is happening. You're afraid it won't be good enough. You start questioning your instincts. You stop trusting the process you were shown will work. And eventually, you hesitate. Not because you can't create, but because you don't trust yourself to create. And when trust drops, identity pressure rises. Now, it's just not about golf or the video. It's about what it says about you. That's where self-doubt tightens everything. And this is where the real shift happens. The moment you start evaluating yourself while you're performing, clarity drops. And when clarity drops, something dangerous happens. You don't ask, what changed in my system? You ask, what's wrong with me? That's the moment self-doubt feels personal. But most of the time, it's structural. And once you see the structure, the panic starts to fade. When self-doubt shows up suddenly, especially in something you've already proven you can do, the first thing to examine is the load. Not talent, not intelligence, not character, load. Cognitive load, emotional load, decision load, expectation load. High achievers are very good at carrying more than they realize. But when your system gets saturated, your brain shifts into monitoring mode, constantly checking and evaluating instead of executing. Monitoring mode isn't creative. It isn't fluid. It's protective. And protection feels like doubt. Here's what overload actually does to you. Under strain, something subtle happens. You stop focusing on the task and start focusing on yourself, doing the task. Instead of executing, you evaluate. Instead of creating, you measure. Instead of leading, you analyze how you're being perceived. In golf, that meant thinking about mechanics mid-swing. Wrong time to do it. In life, it sounds like, am I still good at this? Am I slipping? What if I've peaked? When clarity drops, competence feels like it disappeared. But competence didn't disappear. Access to it did, because overload narrows your mental bandwidth. And this is where it gets more personal. High achievers don't just perform. They identify with performance. When results fluctuate, which they always do, it doesn't feel situational. It feels personal. I've seen this pattern in content creators who are talented, capable, smart, but overloaded, including myself. Too many platforms, too many metrics, too many expectations, and suddenly they hesitate. They second guess. They delay posting. Not because they don't have ideas, but because they don't trust their next move. When you're overloaded, your brain doesn't ask, what needs simplifying? It asks, what's wrong with me? And if this pattern goes unchecked, it doesn't just create hesitation. It slowly erodes trust in yourself. If you're experiencing intense self-doubt in something you've already proven you can do, it's often a sign your system is overloaded, and burnout might be closer than you realize. Because burnout doesn't start with collapse. It starts with your thinking getting distorted. Distortion of feedback, distortion of outcome interpretation, distortion of self-assessment. Burnout changes how you interpret results before it changes your results. You think you're declining, but often you're just depleted. So how do you stop this before it turns into full burnout? Start with this. Don't question your ability until you've questioned your system. Self-doubt is not always a verdict. Sometimes it's a diagnostic signal, like the little light on your dashboard. And when you treat it that way, as data instead of a verdict, you regain control. So here's a simple 3-step reset you can use the next time this shows up. Step 1, pause before you personalize. Don't decide who you are based on how you feel in a stressful moment. Doubt feels urgent, but it rarely is. Step 2, identify what changed. Ask yourself one simple question. What changed? Sleep, workload, pressure, comparison, expectations, recovery? Self-doubt often follows a variable shift. Step 3, narrow one variable. Don't overhaul your life. Don't rebuild your identity. Adjust one variable. In golf, you don't rebuild your entire swing after one bad shot. You isolate one adjustment. Do the same here. If you'd like something structured to walk through when this shows up again, I created a simple self-doubt diagnostic you can download below. It walks you step by step through this reset and performance audit, so you don't have to think clearly when you don't feel clear. If you want to go deeper than a quick reset, here's the structured audit I use. First, capacity. Has recovery dropped below output? Second, the cognitive load. How much is your mind juggling at once? How many open loops are you carrying right now? Third, identity pressure. Are you protecting an image instead of executing a process? And fourth, outcome fixation. Are you trying to control what happens after impact, after the video releases? You control preparation. You don't control reception. And underneath all of this, there's usually one missing piece, the one high achievers ignore the most: recovery. Self-doubt often spikes when recovery disappears. Recovery isn't weakness, it's performance preservation. Restore clarity, narrow focus, trust process, release outcome. You're not losing your ability. You may be losing access to it because your system is overloaded. Sudden self-doubt is often a signal not to quit, not to panic. Just pause, audit, adjust, then execute. Before you rewrite your identity, audit your system. And if you want to go deeper into how your mind shifts under pressure and how to regulate performance under stress, watch the video on your screen right now, because it builds directly on what we covered here, and it will strengthen your performance psychology foundation. I'll see you there.